Dina, have we heard from Steve Dalton?
He will not be here this evening.
Okay. Well, let's, everyone's here. Let's find something I can hit with. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:02. Welcome everyone tuning in to the June 2nd, 2022 regular meeting of the Encinitas City Planning Commission. And in my script, I tell people to turn your cell phones off or set them to vibrate, but perhaps only if your speaker is on. I will say, if you are not speaking to an item, please put yourself on mute. We are running this evening on a virtual meeting format, and in the interest of public health and consistent with provisions of some AB 361 and resolutions adopted by our city council, we are temporarily taking actions by holding commission meetings electronically. And this will go for a period of 30 days. I don't know how far we are into it. You can join this meeting electronically. If you're looking at our agenda, there's a link on it, and that will bring you in, and you will be brought up for a speaking position if you can send messages. How does, Dina, I'm not exactly sure how this works when people sign on to this type of meeting. Can you explain?
They're all panelists, so they all can talk.
Okay, so we have attendees, which are considered the public, and we're going to ask them as we come across each item to raise their hand if they wish to speak. And IT will let them in to, I guess, what they call the panelists. And then when their time is up, they'll go back into the attendee section.
Okay.
And the people in right now, the panelists, are either with the city or the applicant for the item.
So if the public were to come in and request to speak on one of the items on our agenda, do they have a way of sending a message to staff when they sign on?
I'll verbally ask, and I have a screen that you can't see. I believe you can't see, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'll raise their hand, and I'll call them by name.
Okay, our goal is to explain this to the public, not just for us. We're already here. Anyway, I'll go through roll call. Now, I also noticed I was hoping to call Robert Prendergast. I thought he was going to start today. Am I mistaken on that?
Maybe I can let the city attorney speak to that.
Sure. So he was going to participate, but at the next city council meeting, it's anticipated that they're going to reaffirm his, I don't need to get into issues, but they're going to reaffirm his appointment at the next meeting. So he'll participate after that. Okay.
Thank you, Scott. Let the record reflect that 4 of the appointed planning commissioners are present. We will hear more about our new commissioner from Liebenhain in the future.
Hey, Kevin?
Yes.
There are just 3 of us here tonight.
There are 3 of us? Oh, geez, there are. That's crazy. Thank you, Chris. Let the record reflect that Steve Dalton is absent. We'll begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Let's see, we have no announcements. Do we have any oral communications this evening, Dina?
Okay, I'm going to go to our list of attendees. We show 7 of them. I have 2 with hands up. If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand for oral communications. And it looks like Gerald Ann Kessler is first up this evening.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, here we go. I would like to speak about the proposed environmental nightmare housing project on Melba Road that is slated to take down a grove of mature Torrey pines, 173 trees, 30 smaller trees and native shrubs, along with demoing 3 beautiful historical homes built in 1938 or earlier on 6.6 acres for 31 homes, all based on the ill-fated density bonus law AB 2345. We just received the notice of preparation from the city and developer. This has only brought anxiety throughout the neighborhood. This anxiety is being felt amongst many longtime tax-paying senior residents who simply want to just age in place. Due to this environmental nightmare housing project hanging over the neighborhood's head, now they are not being allowed to do that. This is not how Encinitas should be treating the elders of the community. These seniors have raised their families and have only contributed positive things to the quality of life in Encinitas. I want to again point out that they simply look out the window and cannot feel at peace because the trees will soon be removed. Brian Staver recently met with the neighbors who will be directly impacted by this environmental nightmare housing project to discuss the boundary trees and only upset them to the point of seeking medical care shortly after his visit. I would like to remind you how Scripps dealt with building in the community, multiple meetings with the public and planning commission, taking constructive criticism and making changes based on the community's input. This should be the gold standard for building in the community. Nothing like this has taken place on this Melba project. With the 3 beautiful historical homes and the beautiful Encinitas redwood tree line on Melba and the trees throughout the property, please support the community in designating it as a historical landscape as it represents the rural look of Encinitas in the 30s. And this is not currently present in any other location in Encinitas. Please support the community and historical preservation on this property for open space with soft green infrastructure funding and community funding, or perhaps a bond on the ballot for open space. Thank you for listening.
Next up is Rachel Graves. Rachel, if you're able to unmute yourself.
Can you see me? Oh, there you go. Hi, my name is Rachel. What are we doing here on Zoom tonight? We're here on Zoom because the city manager, Pam Antill, lied to us. She lied about Cal OSHA restrictions that do not exist. Then Joy Lyons parroted her lie. Then Joe Mosca repeated the parroting of the lie. We are here on Zoom because council member and mayoral candidate Tony Kranz lied about the air ventilation quality at City Hall. He said it was old. He lied. City Hall updated the HVAC systems in all facilities with the Wave air purification system in 2020 during shutdown. So now we're here because we're lied to by our city council, and the city manager and our city attorney doesn't step in to correct their lies. The attorney here tonight doesn't think that we, quote, need to get into issues about Bob Prendergast, but I do think we need to get into issues about Bob Prendergast. And I'm here tonight because the same 7 people failed the city of Encinitas last week when they appointed Bob Prendergast to this commission. They failed in many ways, but let me just list a few. First, the council broke the law, code 2.30.020. It says, quote, appointees to any city commission will not be selected from among members currently serving in any other city commission, unquote. Next, Mayor Blakespear failed to declare that Prendergast is a large donor to her campaign. He had already donated $500 prior to her selecting him for this job. To pacify their constituents, Tony Kranz and Kelly Heinze admitted they violated the code last week. Kranz says it's, quote, unfortunate, unquote, and he would like to now just change the code, you know, to match his misconduct. Not to be outdone, though, city manager Pam Antill also broke the law last week. Municipal code 2.24.070 states that her first duty, her very first duty, is that she, quote, shall be to enforce all laws and ordinances of the city, unquote. And lastly, Our city attorney failed us when he allowed Joe Mosca to silence him just as he was about to tell the council what deems an application ineligible. Let me be clear, none of this was a mistake. Just 5 weeks earlier, Blakespeare cited this exact municipal code 2.30 as rationale for firing Bruce Ehlers. We are not fooled. All of this committee and all of the council knew full well the terms of serving on a commission. They want to play by their own rules, and we're not going to put up with it. We know the city manager is dishonest week after week, and we know the council is corruptly violating our codes and restricting our rights to attend meetings. But I was hoping my neighbor, Bob Prendergast, was more honorable. And yet, I see he's still appointed to this commission. I'm disgusted with where the city is going under this leadership. How arrogant must everyone think to think that the city codes don't apply to them? I suggest, thought he was going to be here tonight. I suggest he removes himself immediately. And I hope that the city attorney doesn't, quote, let him participate after next week's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up, we have David Hill. There he is.
Did well.
David, you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, all right. Good evening. I want to speak on the application on 8A on the agenda. Is that I'm confused here? Is that what I'm allowed to do at this point?
David, not at this moment. This is to speak to an item or to bring up anything you'd like to speak on that is not on the
Okay.
agenda.
Well, I'm glad you could see me. I got no indication that you could see me or if I was available. But I want to speak on the agenda item 8A. So if you want, I can just drop off and you can call back.
Go ahead and hang on still on the line. And when item 8A comes up and the public hearing is opened, then go ahead and raise your hand.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Okay.
We do still have a few attendees. I just want to ask one more time. Would anyone else like to speak on oral communications? Okay, looks like that's it.
All right. Well, moving on. Typically, the next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. This evening, our consent calendar is empty. So I'm going to move on directly to our regular agenda action items. And we'll kick it right off. Our first project is the La Costa 48 tentative map modification, case multi 5412-2022. Now this is located on La Costa at 510, 512, 514 La Costa Avenue. This is a public hearing to consider modification of the approved tentative map density bonus and substantial conformance to an approved design review to address requirements by the California Coastal Commission. And I'm going to, who's my staff on this? Nick, are you here? Is Nick presenting
Yes,
this?
I am. I'm right here.
All right. In that case, I'm gonna pass it off to you, man. Let's hear a staff report on this, please.
Okay, one moment while I just pull this up. Okay, it should work. Let's see here. Nope, wrong side. Sorry about that. All right.
Looks good.
Awesome. Good evening, Chair Doyle and Commissioners. I'm Nick Kodafides with Development Services. Today I'll be presenting on item 8A, the request for the La Costa 48 tentative map modification. The department is before you today recommending approval of the project. The project site is situated in the community of Leucadia in the residential 3 zoning and general plan designation. The site was previously used as a commercial greenhouse operation. Those operations have since ceased and the site is mostly vacant with miscellaneous accessory structures and 2 single-family homes on site. The 2 homes will remain as part of the project. All other structures will be demolished. The site is bounded by the Batiquitos Lagoon, which is located within the city of Carlsbad limits to the north, Interstate 5, and a proposed boutique hotel to the east. Single-family residential developments are to the west and south of the site. On March 14th, 2019, the Planning Commission approved a 48-lot subdivision with 44 market rate and 4 very low affordable lots utilizing the state density bonus law. The original approval included a design review permit and coastal development permit to demolish existing structures to exceed 4 feet of fill to protect hillside inland bluffs and site improvements. The project was appealed and City Council denied the appeal and approved the project on April 24th, 2019. As part of the city's approval of the La Costa 48 subdivision project, the city approved a coastal development permit, or CDP, for the project. While the city issued this CDP on April 24th, 2019, it was appealed to the Coastal Commission. On July 8th, 2020, the Coastal Commission denied the appeal. The Coastal Commission issued its notice of intent to issue the CDP on July 20th, 2020, and then issued a corrected notice of intent on September 9th, 2021 to clarify some of the conditions. The CDP was approved subject to certain conditions for development. In its notice of intent to issue the CDP, the Coastal Commission indicated that it will not issue the CDP until certain special conditions have been satisfied. The Coastal Commission identified the following changes for the CDP, which will be described further in subsequent slides. Changes to affordable unit locations, public access requirements, public trails additions and requirements, lighting requirements, and encapsulated soils modification. In an effort to be in compliance with the Coastal Commission required project changes, the project applicant is requesting approval from the Planning Commission for a tentative map modification and a substantial conformance determination for design review related to grading only. In regards to affordable unit locations, lots 43 and 45 have been required to be identified on the plan as affordable lots dedicated for very low income households. The remaining 2 affordable lots dedicated for the remaining 2 affordable lots dedicated for very low income households on lots 42 and 44 shall be relocated away from La Costa Avenue to lots 18 and 30, which is located in the community interior. Lot lines shall be adjusted accordingly to size the lots such that the future units will be affordable for very low income households. In regards to trails, the following conditions have been altered. The first change is that no pedestrian or vehicular gates are permitted at the entrance to their proposed development at the La Costa Avenue and Seabreeze Court intersection. All streets, roads, and public parking areas shall be open for the use by the general public 24 hours a day. Long-term or permanent physical obstruction of streets, roads, and public parking areas shall be prohibited. The second change is that all public trails shall be a minimum of 5 to 10 feet in width and constructed of decomposed granite or a similar permeable material appropriate for trail construction. All public trails shall be maintained in good condition for public access. The third change is that an approximately 620-foot long trail shall be installed on the northern border of the site in phase 1 of the project and an approximately 500-foot-long trail on the northeast border of the site during phase 2 of the project. In regards to lighting and fencing, the Coastal Commission required that all lighting be designed to be directed downward onto the project site, be the lowest intensity while still providing for human safety, and be shielded to minimize spillover into the adjacent wetland areas. Historical agricultural uses have resulted in organochlorine pesticides impacts above regional screening levels for residential soil and shallow soils at the site. Prior to and during excavation, the project is conditioned to remediate the soils by encapsulating them on site consistent with the approved property mitigation plan. The Coastal Commission requested that the encapsulated soil locations be removed from under all the affordable lots and moved to the market rate lots. The project requires the approval of a substantial conformance determination for a design review permit. The purpose of the design review permit is to review the grading, site design, and landscaping improvements to ensure consistency with the City of Encinitas design guidelines, as well as with the overall character of the Leucadia community. The project is not altering grading quantities or the level of fill. Therefore, it is substantially similar to the previously approved project. Staff has reviewed the request and found no concerns with the approval of a substantial conformance determination. A design review permit for the construction of the residences will occur at a later time and brought to the Planning Commission for a decision. The project has been reviewed for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. An addendum has been prepared to address only minor clarifications to the previously certified Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, for the proposed tentative map modifications required by the Coastal Commission. The applicant mailed a citizen participation program newsletter on April 20th, 2022, informing the public of the proposed changes to the tentative map. 2 members of the public commented. The topics of discussion included pedestrian access, height of residences, public trail proximity to existing residences, and stormwater. The full CPP report, which identifies how the applicant responded to the concerns, can be found in attachment PC6 of the staff report. The applicant further offered to meet with the commenters and met with one of them on site to address their concerns. Staff received comments from the public regarding pedestrian access along La Costa Avenue, existing septic on site, stormwater, and traffic. The modifications requested do not change the results analyzed by the previous EIR regarding these topics that were approved by both the city and by the Coastal Commission. Staff would like to include one clarification to the tentative map modification. Currently, the draft resolution included in attachment PC-1 states that the expiration date for the tentative map will be until March 14th, 2023. The resolution will be updated to revise the expiration date to March 14th, 2022. A time extension is currently in process and will be reviewed and rendered a decision at a later date at the discretion of the director. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the tentative map modification because the project complies with relevant codes and regulations and the required findings can be made. This concludes staff's presentation. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have any questions from staff or for staff from any of the commissioners? Any questions of clarification? Susan, Chris, you're the only ones here. Susan.
I do have one question. I was wondering how much of a buffer is there on the plan for the separation between development and the lagoon wetland area?
One moment while I look that up. If there's any other questions, I can take those first while I'm researching that part, just to give you the exact number.
So I was looking at the page 131 of the staff report, which I think is somewhat related to Susan's point there, where it's like the green path that goes in phase one, runs along two neighboring properties, and then, well, actually, no, is that not along the lagoon part is phase two? Is that right, Susan? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, the area closest to Lagoon.
Sorry, one moment.
Just-
So at a minimum right now, there's, and I don't have the exact number offhand, but I can tell you it's farther than our 100-foot buffer from the wetland that we require as part of our general plan policies.
Okay, so it's greater than 100 feet.
I believe so, yes,
Thank you.
no problem.
And anyone else? If not, I think next up would be do we hear from the applicant first, or we go to oral communications?
The applicant.
The applicant, please. I think Brian are you speaking for the applicant tonight?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Thank you so much, Chair Doyle
much
and
time as you need.
commissioners.
10 minutes.
And,
approximately.
Say that again?
I said, take as much time as you need. We usually schedule you for 10 minutes.
Oh, no, we don't need nearly that much time. Thank you all for your service. We're here to discuss basically the kind of enhancements that the Coastal Commission kind of introduced to this project. It's from 3 feet off the table. This project looks almost exactly as it did when you approved it back in 2019. We're here really just to answer any questions, because the project is very much so in soul in nature as it was when it was approved back in 2019, with the enhancements of trails and other features, and making it more sound in terms of environmental justice, which is one of the proponents of the Coastal Commission. And we're still very proud of the project, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Brian. I'm gonna leave public comment open in case we have any questions for you, okay?
Very good.
And Dina, do we have any speakers in this item tonight?
Let me ask. We have some people in our attendees line. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? I know Mr. Hill, David did. So why don't
Oh, and Susan, you still have your hand up. Did you want to comment before we moved on?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll lower.
Thank you.
Kieran, can we please put Mr. Hill?
Just moved him over.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Hill should be first up.
David, you would just need to unmute at this time. We do see you there now.
Okay. Okay. I presume good evening, of course. I'm David Hill, representing Bataquitas Lagoon, and we have done so since the project has been on the books. It seems to be forever. I have a question, and that is, I have to presume that the Planning Commission has read all 141 pages, and presuming that they have, I submitted on March the 21st with a 4-page letter to Kevin Parker, Associate Planner at City of Encinitas, discussing the issue of the continuation of the project for another year, possibly even more, with the granting of the extension, and in the fact also that there is no California Coastal Commission permit granted at this time. I can only think that the project is going to go on for a very, very long time. And in that interim period, the septic waste system, which is an on-site human waste, if you will, treatment system, is still going to continue on polluting Bataquitas Lagoon. And I submitted and you have in the package on pages 121 to 141, I'm sorry, to 110 to 125, is not only the copy of the letter, but also the sampling that we did of the sediment and the water quality for Bataquitas Lagoon in December the 9th, 2021. With the continuation of the septic system, we discovered a septic plume. That plume is obviously is going to expand, and it has been there for a very long time. And this was brought up back in 2019 to the City Council as well as the California Coastal Commission. But here we have evidence of human waste bacteria present in the sediment, and it has been there for a very, very long time. But what I'm getting at is that it continues. So we would like to make the proposal that the Western property or the Toll Brothers, that they monitor in the 4 locations north of the Western property where the Pasta 48 is. So we can monitor how it's going to increase over the period of time before all the construction is done. Because right now, the Western property, the homes are not on sewerage. They're being used in septic tanks, and the property is a leach field. It goes into the groundwater, and then by gravity trickles down, goes into the groundwater, then into Bataquitas Lagoon. And we sampled that area, and it's not going to get any better. So I would like that to be considered and not be summarily dismissed. But in the interim, if I may say something here, that the State Water Resources Control Board Resolution 2018-0019 indicates that you cannot issue a conditional waiver for on-site wastewater treatment systems when already the body of the state body of Bataquitas Lagoon has been listed out of compliance with the Clean Water Act, Section 303, parenthesis D, parenthesis C. So it's a continuation of the issue, and I would hope at some point in time we can get this thing controlled or monitored and not just sweep it under the rug.
We'll discuss this. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Trust me, we're not going to just blow you off. Thank you.
You bet.
If anyone else wishes to speak on this item, if you could please raise your hand.
No one?
We do. We have.
I see a hand.
Yeah.
ET is that perhaps Elena Thompson?
That's what I'm thinking.
Elena, you just need to unmute.
Oh, hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Yes, thank you for the time here tonight. I'm a resident of Leucadia and neighbor to this project. And happy we're going to be getting 48 houses instead of 480 apartments. I do share, however, the Bataquitas Lagoon Foundation's environmental concerns, and I think they really need to be looked at very closely before this advances tonight. But in addition, I have grave concerns about the public safety impacts of this project on La Costa Avenue, where we currently do not have a sidewalk for the neighborhood and these new homeowners to walk to the beach or walk to our downtown area. I'm curious what the developers mitigation or traffic impact and other impact fees are. I did not see that as part of this overall report. And clearly there would have to be mitigation for all of the impacts that we will be suffering. And I'd like to see sidewalks as a result of all of these new people coming to the area and the developer bringing all the cars. Lastly, I'm concerned about spillover parking. We continue to see as a city the impact of new projects where they don't provide enough parking, and clearly this is the case here. And people put all their toys in the garage, and next thing you know, they're parking all the kids' cars and extra cars and RVs in the neighborhood. I'd like to know how the developer is going to be handling that and make sure that this body addresses it in the report prior to any approvals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alana.
I don't see any other hands to speak to this item.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? In that case, we'll move on to commissioner deliberation.
No.
What am I missing, Scott?
Sorry, I'll just.
Oh, yes, the applicant wish to respond to anything that's been.
Yes. Just to clear up a couple of those items real quick. The traffic was studied as part of the original application as 2019, and there was no impacts that need to be mitigated beyond adding that basically the left turn pocket that we introduced on Lacoste Avenue, which is going to greatly enhance the maneuverability of vehicles moving in and out of this project, as well as homes on Sheridan. In terms of parking, there's 47 stalls that we're introducing on site. Every home has adequate parking unto themselves as part of the building code. And then regarding the septic issue, as part of our development, this whole development will be on sewer moving forward. And any theoretical septic issues coming from the site would be eliminated. But I would like to add a point that the levels that that were referred to in the report that were submitted by the Lagoon Foundation were below limit, actually, which is very important. And also, there's no evidence that they are even coming from this site. So it's important to remember that this site is not connected potentially to those levels, and those levels are also below any sort of mitigation as well. So I just want to make that clear. And we are here to answer any other questions if you need to reopen public testimony. Thank you.
Well, we never closed it, Brian. But since I do have you here, let me ask you a quick question. Now we have the sidewalk spanning the front of your property. Yeah.
Correct.
But the only pet access on Lacoste is actually on the other side of Lacoste.
Correct.
Is that of any concern to you, or are you going to try and figure out trying to finagle a crosswalk here to get your people from Lacoste 48 to where the pet walkway is?
Well, I would love for there to be an enhanced pedestrian access all the way from our site down to the beach. We were conditioned to provide public improvements for our frontage, which we are doing with our sidewalks, and we're maintaining the AC paved pedestrian access on the south side with our improvements. And those were the conditions we agreed to as part of this original tentative map improvement. Regarding a crosswalk at our intersection, without some sort of traffic commission approval of either like a blinking metered sidewalk at Sheridan, we're not going to be able to have the opportunity to introduce something like that along our frontage that close to the I-5 off ramps.
I mean, we just approved a mid-block crossing near the San Diego High School on Santa Fe.
Chair Doyle, I can answer something for you for it. Yeah, no problem. A crosswalk is determined, at least at the city, at a more programmatic level rather than the individual project level. So the traffic signals in there's sorry, let me backtrack there. There's a La Costa Avenue analysis.
I know.
Yeah, okay, that's going on, and that'll come back in the next. They'll come to City Council in the next few months. Based on, and then that will have the analysis of where crosswalks are appropriate along La Costa that wouldn't cause any kind of hiccups along the way with the current traffic flow.
Cool. Well, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Brian. Does anyone else have anything to say about this? Because, I mean, I could jump right into this. I think now proper for council deliberations, is that correct? All right. Chris, did I see you wanted to say?
Yes.
Go for it.
So I'm going to start with the septic issue. And so I just had a couple questions about the concern about the septic, and then starting with, is the does Mr. Hill believe there's no one living on the property now, right? So the septic tanks aren't active. Is that correct?
Brian, you need to confirm that there are two existing.
Yes, there are two existing single-family residences, and Lita Weston, who was actually born on the property, like back in the 1930s, is still living in one of the residences, and her son Fred is living in the other residence. So there are two occupants on site and two residents.
Okay, so the septic tanks are still being used by those residents then?
Correct. And
okay.
they will be taken offline as soon as this project is under development.
Okay. So that's kind of my first concern, because I see that a pretty big disparity between Brian's comments about the septic and Mr. Hill's comments about the septic. So I do have some concerns about pollution into the lagoon from the septic that's still being used. And I feel like we are still very early in this project. We're talking about approval for grading at this point. So we're many steps away from any building on the property. So I just have concerns about perhaps some kind of mitigation or some kind of further analysis about the potential septic issues and the pollution into the lagoon that can be done in the meantime. So that's one of my concerns. Another one has to do with traffic on La Costa Avenue. I did read all of the letters from residents in the neighborhood, and I actually do live in this neighborhood as well. So I'm very familiar with the issues down La Costa Avenue. I do have a question. I understand there's plans for a left-hand turn pocket going eastbound on La Costa Avenue. What I don't know is if there's also plans for a right-hand turn pocket going westbound on La Costa Avenue in order to pull that traffic turning right into the development from La Costa Avenue. Is there also a plan for a right-hand turn pocket?
I don't mean to try and pull this back in a different direction. This tentative map was approved in 2019, and we are here to discuss the relocation of 2 affordable units and the addition of some trails. Like, the project's been approved as designed, and I don't mean any disrespect, but the focus of tonight's hearing is to discuss the Coastal Commission required modifications to the previous approved application.
Right, I do understand that. I'm just trying to get an idea because I didn't see anything in the documents that I had in front of me tonight. I was just asking a simple question as to whether that is in the plans or not.
Oh, no, it's there. Yeah. So the intent of the left turn pocket is for westbound traffic would be to turn in right into the development, and then also it offers the opportunity the development to turn right out, and then people that are going eastbound to turn left into the development, and then also so that was all factored into the original approval from 3 years ago.
Okay, I just wanted to. I mean, we had a lot of letters from citizens in the community, so I just wanted to address some of their issues and explain to them that I understand their frustrations along the Costa Avenue, and I just wanted a little bit of additional information.
Oh, absolutely.
Regarding how you guys have the work that you've already put in to address the traffic issues in front of your development. Understanding that this isn't the time or the place to address all issues down La Costa Avenue.
I totally agree. And yeah, just trying to help. Thank you.
Cool. Chris, do you have more?
Not at this moment.
It's not. Susan, do you have anything to jump in with?
Yeah, my main concern was the buffer be maintained between the project and the lagoon because of wildlife considerations. And also, I feel that I looked at the plan now to verify it. It does look like it is 100 feet minimum. And so it meets our city guidelines for that. I think the other issue of, the burying of toxics was something else that I wasn't so sure would be wonderful for our lagoon area. And but that I'm not sure that has already been approved, I think, and I wasn't on Planning Commission in 2019, but I believe that was already approved. So that would have been my main other area that I was worried about. The traffic, I think we all know La Costa gets a lot of traffic because people use it as an alternate route in order to get over towards Pano Beach, but also to avoid traffic sometimes on the 5, they'll take La Costa instead of, for example, one of the further south entries to the freeway. But this project doesn't require, we're not requiring right now for them to do anything that will increase safety, is my understanding on La Costa. And so my recommendation would be for the city to take into consideration traffic calming features on La Costa, because we're going to have even more people walking down and even more people driving. So traffic calming solutions are probably a good idea, in my opinion, just a recommendation that I have.
And I think La Costa is on the fast track to be looked at first in the circulation element update. And I think there's hardly anyone in town who's unaware of that. Now I see Chris and Anna both have their hands up.
Anna can go first.
I was going to offer you to go first, but that's totally fine. I just wanted to provide a couple points of clarification for the concerns regarding existing septic. Those are regulated by the county health department, and that's where existing septic issues would be handled. And then the project itself is proposing improvements. During the analysis of the original approvals, traffic calming measures were looked at, and all of the improvements that are proposed that you see in this plan, they are on page 140 of the staff report, and it shows the turn lane and the sidewalk improvements that are proposed on this project. And then, as Nick mentioned, we do have a consultant who is looking at the overall La Costa area and providing recommendations, and we hope to have that community meeting in the next month. It was supposed to be scheduled, but we're trying to do it in person, so we're waiting to see how long our Zoom meetings will go. But that is forthcoming, which will speak to a cohesive plan for La Costa Avenue in this location.
Great. Thank you, Anna. There are no other hands up? I'll put my hand up. Chris?
You want to go first, Kevin? You haven't really had a chance to make any comments.
No. I got, well, yeah, actually, I'll jump in because I do have things that are, so concerning the septic that's on site, I mean, I have septic at my house. I'm not freaked out about it. If it's done properly, can help replenish groundwater while filtering things, but I'm not a septic engineer. But the point here is, though, that this project will eliminate this septic issue, and so we'll be mitigating it. The project moving forward, as approved, will mitigate that regardless. Concerning La Costa, I recognize we're doing as much or the applicant's doing as much as they can and should, and the city needs to step up and link things up properly. I have a concern with let's get back to the issue at hand, which is the Coastal Commission made recommendations for a new path, which I love the new path, but I'm concerned about, I believe it's the phase one runs along the western boundary and then kind of takes a kink or actually, yeah, run along the western boundary and then it kind of turns right. I'm looking at page 131. Anna, or Nick, I think it's up to you. Could you pull up page 131 and kind of zoom in on that new section over near the bluff? So my concern there is if we look at the section of the path that's directly west and north, we've got a 25-foot easement. We have 2 lots with 2 houses directly west of that, and the path's kind of like looms over it a bit. So I want to make sure that that path, yeah, exactly, the West Neighborhood Park, right where the words west and neighborhood are, there's 2 houses that are rather close to the property line and further down the bluff, right? So between the park, that's the park, but if you there's 2 lots directly to the left of that. There's one, yep, those 2. If you look at this, we're to see this on a satellite map, and actually I grabbed a copy from your presentation, Nick, had a nice photograph, like a drone image looking down along the lagoon. And this was called Design Review Substantial Conformance. I think you had it. Little further, you had a nice, like, whoop, back there it is. So there, just near, we have that empty lot there, and then we have those 2 houses right there, and the path is going to run right along in front of those 2 houses, and then it'll turn and it'll come along the bluff, and then there's another section which is phase 2, which is a little more problematic, where it loops around behind those trees. So the part that looks the simplest is that straight shot right next to the property that runs along those 2 houses. So I want to make sure that there's some sort of visual buffering. I mean, it's 25 feet. If the path can be in a bit, and landscaping would be my preferred alternative, something just to make it a little less like a path perched over their homes. I think it's just it's a red flag for me. And it seems like something that could be easily mitigated with just some creative handling of that path. I mean, is there any detail on how the paths will go there, or is it just kind of drawn in? Not sure who asked there. Nick, perhaps?
No, Brian.
Brian. Hey, Brian. Hey, man. So what have they told you about the path that you need to build? What's your plan there?
The plan is to install a 6-foot privacy fence between the public trail and those 2 residents. And there's also, as part of our design review application, we're going to be introducing some enhanced landscaping as well. And we've been in discussions with those neighbors as well. So we're quite aware of their privacy, and we do not want looky-loos or people enjoying the trail to be in their backyards.
Cool. Just so you know, it's on my radar too. I don't think I'm the only one. I don't know if we need to specify anything. I'm the only one that's got a hand up. Let me move that down. Chris? Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, it's not on this particular path.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Do we have any other discussions? Anything else we need to bring up on this topic? I'm reasonably happy with it. I'm comparing the 2 maps. I've got the 2019 map with, I like the new easements. phase one, here's a question again, either for Brian or Nick. Phase one is happening when the project happens. Phase two is happening when, and why is it delayed?
Phase two is going to happen within a 3-year time period of the actual execution of phase one. The main reason being is the phase two trail will actually pass through Lita Weston's home. And the goal is to allow for her to remain in the home as long as possible before phase two of the trail needs to be enacted.
That's excellent. Thank you. I totally support, these, we have our Encinitas has its royalty, who've been here many generations. And the Westons have been good neighbors and good stewards of the land. I'd entertain a motion here if anyone's got.
I think we had Chris, Commissioner Ryan.
Oh, Chris, you have your hands up again. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I just wanted to say that I do like some of the added features. In particular, I like that the trails are open to the public, and there's going to be signage that's going to be posted at all the entrances so that members of the public know that they have access to the trails, and that all of the parking in the area is also open to the public. And I also appreciate that there's no gate. It's not going to be a gated community that could cause any kind of backup onto La Costa Avenue as people wait to enter.
I also like the moving those two affordable units. I never liked them clumped together. I know the burying of the toxic soil, or however toxic it is, was kind of freaky weird the first time I heard it. And we had a couple hours of discussion on that one. So it is a standard practice, and I think it's going to be fairly distributed. And does anyone want to say anything how deep that is, or nobody really needs to go there now? We've beat that one with a stick. Nick's laughing because yes, we've gone into that one in great depth. No pun intended.
It is 7 feet, just for reference, Chairman Doyle.
Susan?
I just want to ask if there is a condition that it would never be fenced in a way that prohibits movement of animals that might be traversing towards the lagoon. I know that the city has kind of I don't think they have a written policy about it. And I just wonder if there's a condition in here somewhere that I've missed that prohibits fencing that would make it difficult for animals to get through. And there's a lot of animals that are really even very small. And so not just thinking about like, a coyote or something like that, but, also thinking about, the smaller wildlife. But fencing can be a barrier. And I just want to make sure that I saw that there's a split rail fence on the design, and I think that's a good type of fence for this area that's so close to a wildlife area and wetland area. But I wanted to know if there's any condition that prohibits a fence that would have, let's say, a mesh or something that would be much more restrictive to wildlife.
So as of Commissioner Sherrod, through the chair, as of right now, the condition that I've read from the mitigation monitoring plan from the previous EIR, the fencing is to the satisfaction of the city of Encinitas. It would basically be me because I do a lot of the, I do most of the environmental here. However, you're welcome to, clarify in the condition for us that it would be basically to a certain standard to not prohibit wildlife movement.
I think the fencing kind of stops on the bluff area. I mean, they're not fencing the bluff.
They're fencing the open space easement.
Yeah,
well, actually, I think they have a split rail fence along the trail is what they have. So, but that's what they have at the current design. But I would love to see a condition that prevents the fence from being modified, because, for example, I went and looked at something that I wanted to see at a public park not that long ago, and it was locked up in a fence that had a very a crisscross, very dense sort of metal mesh. And I couldn't really I could barely see through there, let alone to get a picture of what I wanted to see. So I just want to make sure that down the road, that's sort of been addressed.
Well, it's a question for either, I think, Scott or Anna. Is this in our purview? Could we make such a recommendation?
Staff would not have an issue with it. I was just going to see if there's any requirement for it if the applicant does not wish to have a condition like that. So that's what I was looking at. But if you'd like to have the applicant speak, I see their hand up regarding that.
I wouldn't expect a big issue. I think what we want to make sure is that we're not putting up super impermeable fencing that keeps the wildlife from moving through. I think something like that would be more expensive and probably less likely to be part of this project. But I know people who've done things like that. I see a couple of hands up. Who is Joanne? Joanne, who are you? Hi.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Epstein. I'm the representative for Toll Brothers.
Oh, thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to add, we've been working very closely with the Coastal Commission. So Susan, your concerns about if the fencing can be modified, it's very specific in the notice of intent. And the Coastal Commission has approved only that rope with the wood. And so it's very specific what we can actually do in that easement area with respect to how many benches we can put in, no irrigation. So I think any concerns with respect to the developer or someone trying to modify is being addressed in the notice of intent in that condition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Epstein. I'm satisfied with that. Does anyone have anything else to add on this topic? Susan, your hand's still up. I'm going to keep calling on you. All right.
I'm sorry. I got it down.
Nothing. It's like we all have to get our Zoom legs back on. Well, I'm going to jump ahead and make a motion that we approve this resolution as per staff recommendations. And if anyone else wants to jump in, I don't think there was any modifications we were planning to make.
I'll second your motion.
There was one clarification regarding how many years of the expiration.
Yes, and that was mentioned by staff earlier, and I will make that as part of my motion. And Susan, you okay with that second? She's nodding her head yes.
Yeah, yes.
There's only 3 of us here. Dina, perhaps you'll call the question for us.
All right. Chair Doyle?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharon?
Aye.
And Commissioner Ryan?
Aye.
All right. Motion
unanimously.
passes
Yes.
with 3 votes yes, and Commissioner Dalton absent, and Commissioner Prendergast not yet seated. So thank you very much. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Joanne. And
can I just say one thing?
of course, please.
Sorry, in speaking, I just wanted to acknowledge Nick for all his help and his assistance with this application process. He's been actually absolutely fantastic. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to hear that.
And Chair Doyle, was the public hearing closed?
Oh, the public hearing is closed, and then we will call this. Geez, I've done this in the wrong order. I'm very sorry. I'm getting my Zoom legs back
For
on.
that item, yeah, just for that item. Yeah.
Yep. So the public comment is closed for item 8A, and we are now moving on in our agenda. Let me shuffle some papers here a little bit, please. And the next stop on our agenda is item 8B, which is a continued review and consideration of amendments to the Planning Commission bylaws. And our staff contact here is Anna. And Anna, I'm concerned. I know we put this item here so that we could have all of our commissioners present, and here we have just 3 out of 5. Unless anyone has any objections, I'm going to make a motion that we continue this item to our next available meeting. Maybe a date certain would be best.
And I'll second that motion.
All right. And Anna, will we do this on our next meeting, or should we hem and haw, put it at a date uncertain?
We can schedule it for the 16th, and then if they're all not present at that meeting, you can continue it off.
Continue it again.
Yeah, but our hopes is that we have full commission by then.
Because this is our our bylaws. It's nobody's, there's no deadline here. And it makes sense to drag our heels on making substantive changes to our bylaws because, so let me see, I had a motion and a second. Can I get the question?
Yeah,
Gina?
I'll call the question. Chair Doyle,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharon,
Aye.
and Commissioner Ryan.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Well, that item is moved. We'll hear this again on our next meeting, which is June 16th, I believe. Do we have any future agenda items that planning commissioners would like to add? Hearing none. Any planning commission reports? Nope. The secretary, do we have any secretary reports?
The only report is that the native plant committee met on Tuesday evening, and it was a recorded Zoom meeting, and they will have a third meeting. A date has not yet been determined on that, but if there's any questions, they can contact me and I can get them to the right person.
Alrighty then. It's another frighteningly short meeting. We're all going to get to have dinner with our families. And so I'm going to adjourn this meeting to our regular planning commission meeting of June 6th, 2022 at 6 p.m. I don't know if it'll be Zoom or in person. We'll find out. Watch the papers. You'll hear more. Thank you, everyone.